What's up everyone, it's Tensei here, and today we are going to discuss the last character I have predicted for the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX Speed Duel box. So it's possible that some of my predictions are inaccurate since I'm not the one who decided these characters, but I think they're at least fairly accurately guessed based on some knowledge we already have, but hey, I might be wrong. But anyway, let's get right into what I think Alexis will get. So her deck is divided into the Cyberblader stuff and Cyber Angel stuff, with the Cyber Angel rituals being definitely the better part of her deck. And they were even very powerful in dueling, so they had to limit a bunch of their cards to make them not that prominent or even unplayable, I think. But we are in a different format, and perhaps Konami would include some checks for them or just not print as many of their cards as they did for duelings, to make them a little less threatening, since I don't think they would like to purposefully make a tier 0 Cyber Angel format again in a different format. But let's get right into her cards then. So Cyber Angel Idaten, as well as the other Cyber Angel rituals, are summoned with Machine Angel Ritual or Machine Angel Absolute Ritual. And Idaten lets you add a ritual spell from deck or grave to hand if she's ritual summoned, and also make all your ritual monsters gain 1000 attack and defense permanently if she's tributed. So the permanent attack boost is really cool. You don't have to just be content with having a 1000 attack boost for one turn, but no, it will last for your opponent's turn and your next turn, meaning that your opponent will have to deal with them and not just wait out the attack boost. And also gaining a ritual spell back on summon is really cool, and make sure you don't run out of steam, because rituals by themselves can make you lose cards very quickly if they don't replace themselves some way, like Idaten does. And then Benten is a card that's actually limited in advanced format right now for the TCG. But we don't have the Drytrons here, so she's significantly less abusable. Yes, her effect is still good, but you don't get to trigger it as many times in a turn as you would in a Drytron deck. So yeah, she's fine mostly. She also has a field effect that if she destroys a monster by battle, you get to do damage to your opponent equal to the defense of the destroyed monster. But yeah, that's okay. But she's only 1800 by herself, so she won't be beating over anything big without attack boost like Idaten or Ritual Weapon, of course. Then there's Cyber Angel Izana. So she's a little bigger, and if she's ritual summoned, you can make your opponent send a spell trap they control to the graveyard, and when she destroys a monster by battle, you can activate the effect to make her attack a second time on an opponent's monster. And also, once per turn, when your opponent activates a card effect that targets a Cyber Angel ritual monster you control, you can shuffle a ritual from your graveyard into your deck, and if you do, destroy one card your opponent controls. So this won't negate the targeting effect. So let's say they use like Book of Moon on this, it will still go face down, you just get to destroy a card as well. This is maybe a little powerful, I will admit. I think it's a little silly to do both Izana and Dakini, but maybe one of them is fine. I think Dakini was like the powerhouse in duelings at least, but the benefit for Izana that makes her like a little more fair is that she only sends spells and traps, so she won't out any big monsters unless you target her. But she's still a very powerful card on her own and has a multitude of good effects. Then Dakini is the counterpart to Izana, in that when she's ritual summoned, you can make your opponent send one monster they control the graveyard, as opposed to a spell or trap. She also does piercing, and in the end phase you can target a ritual monster or Machine Angel ritual in your grave and add it to your hand. So she's also going to give you more recursion like Idaten and Benten, which is really cool for not making you run out of steam. But yeah, the removal effect and no hard ones per turns on the card makes her really powerful, especially when you get multiples out. Then the final ritual monster is Cyber Angel Natasha. Now, Natasha is a little annoying, I suppose, So once per turn you can target one face-up monster you control and gain life points equal to half its attack. And if a ritual monster you control is target for an attack, you can negate the attack. So basically, if you attack Natasha, she will just forever negate you unless you have something that prevents the effect from activating, like maybe Ancient Gear Wyvern. But that makes her like indestructible by battle, as well as any other ritual monster you control. And yeah, finally, if she's in the grave, you can banish another Cyber Angel from your grave and then target a monster your opponent controls, special summon Natasha, and take control of the opponent's monster. Now this does have to be properly ritual summoned first, so you can't just tribute it for or discard it for something and then use it generically, but no, you have to use a dedicated Cyber Angel dex mostly to have her ritual summoned first. But it's still a really powerful effect to take control of your opponent's monsters, as we know from Inner Conflict. This might be a little silly to add and toxic, to be honest, but it's an option. Again, I don't support adding every card on this list, but maybe some of, like, I don't think any single card here is too much, as long as they don't synergize too hard together. And then Cyber Egg Angel lets you add Machine Angel spell or Ritual Sanctuary from deck to hand on summon. And Cyber Petite Angel lets you add a Cyber Angel monster or Machine Angel ritual from deck to hand on summon. So they have a lot of consistency options depending on which one they get, and both of these are also recurable by Ritual Sanctuary. Yeah, well, Ritual Sanctuary is the field spell designed to work with Cyber Angels, so you can discard spell and add one light ritual monster or ritual spell from your deck to your hand. Now this isn't restricted to Cyber Angels, which means you can use some other stuff. Paladin of White Dragon at least is a light ritual monster. And you can shuffle any number of spells from your grave into the deck and target a light fairy monster in your grave whose level equals the number of cards you shuffled and special summon it. So this would mean, well, obviously that you get to summon back Cyber Petite Angel and Cyber Egg Angel, but also you get to shuffle back good spells like Pre-Preparation of Rites. So let's say you do use this with like Paladin of White Dragon, you get to shuffle back the ritual spells and pre-prep, so you never run out of them, which also kind of helps the bricking problem, because you get to run less of those cards, or at least the ritual spells, since currently when I run pre-prep decks, I'm always afraid that I'll run out of targets in the end game, and that just means I sometimes run 3 ritual spells to make sure I have my fuel left. But that also means that I draw too much of them sometimes in the early game, which can also make me lose. So Ritual Sanctuary would be really cool and make a chance for some cool creative decks, in my opinion. Then the ritual spells. So Machine Angel Ritual tributes monster from your hand or field whose total levels equal or exceed the level of the ritual monster you ritual summon. And it also banishes itself to protect light monsters from being destroyed. So this is a really powerful effect and means that your opponent can just offerings to your monster away, since Machine Angel Ritual will just banish itself instead, which is one reason why these are very powerful. You need non-destruction removal or multiple removal options just to get rid of one monster. So this might be a really big threat if we actually get at least like most of these cards, even if not all. Then Machine Angel Absolute Ritual, also ritual summons Cyber Angels, and you must tribute monster from your hand or field and or shuffle fairy or warrior type monster from your graveyard into the deck whose total level is exactly equal to level of the ritual monster you ritual summon. So this is a little more specific. You can't exceed the level, and you also don't get the protection, but you get to shuffle back stuff from your grave into the deck. So it's recursion, and also means you don't have to actually have the tributes left. So it saves you some card advantage. I think the Machine Angel Ritual in general is a little better, but this has some upsides to it, and depending on the build, this might be better. But yeah, none of them are unfortunately targets for Pre-Preparation of Rites, but I don't think the deck needs that with all the searcher options they have already. And we have a couple of more Cyber Angel spells. So Incarnated Machine Angel prevents your Cyber Angel rituals from being destroyed by a battle, which is, well, slightly redundant if you have Natasha, but I digress. And if you take damage by a battle or an opponent's card effect, you can tribute a Cyber Angel ritual from your hand or field and special a Cyber Angel ritual monster from your hand. So this is a little weird, I suppose. Like, it does telegraph itself and it's vulnerable to Breaker or Cosmic Cyclone or any new spell trap removal stuff. But it's also, I think it's kind of cute, and it doesn't, like, you don't have to use exact levels or anything. So it's a way to get your Cyber Angel stuff without exact levels out. I think this is not that great since it's a little do nothing for, like, when you activate this, it does kind of nothing. But I think it's kind of cute. That's it. And then there's Merciful Machine Angel. So you tribute a Cyber Angel ritual from your hand or field, draw 2, then place 1 from your hand to the bottom of the deck. And it locks you into rituals for the rest of this turn, but I don't think that's a problem with how speed duels work. So it's some more digging into your deck, but it does neg 1 in the end, so it's not as good as something like Allure of Darkness. But it's a playable card, maybe, at least an option. I don't think it's not too insane, at least, so there's no like risk ruining the format with this, I'm sure. And then Ritual Weapon is a equip spell that lets you give a level 6 or lower ritual monster 1500 attack and defense. So it's a big boost, but only goes on small rituals, so you can't make like huge Dakini or anything. It makes Benten quite a threat to make her on-field effect work, but I don't think if you're really interested in making the on-field effect work. Anyway. Okay, that's it for the Cyber Angel stuff, yeah. Then let's look at her other deck. So here the boss monster is Cyber Blader, and she's a fusion of Duel Cyber and Blade Skater. And her effects depend on how many monsters your opponent controls, so if they have 1, this can be destroyed by battle. If they have 2, double this card's attack, and if they have 3, negate all of their effects. So the 3 effect is really good, of course, but it's only on 3, and also these effects don't stack. Like, you don't get all of the effects when your opponent has 3 monsters, so you have to choose. And yeah, she's kind of funny, but it's also super easy to play around. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of like her, and honestly, if they gave Cyberblader a cool skill that makes her even better, I would really enjoy that, since aesthetically I like this card and the way the effects work, but they're just too balanced, maybe. That's how I could put it. The fusion materials, it's Duel Cyber, is a level 4 warrior, and she gains 500 attack when attacking directly, but that's still kind of small, only 17, and otherwise she's not beating over anything that's relevant. And then Blade Skater is a normal monster. They are both warriors, so they're searchable with reinforcement of the army to give some extra consistency if they go with this route. And that's always great, that you have more consistency. Unfortunately, you can't use fusion substitute cards like King of the Swamp or Goddess with a Third Eye for Cyberblader, even if they added those. And well, that's for the main fusion line, but the other Cyber Warrior stuff includes Cyber Gymnast, which is kind of a cool staple card potentially on her own for warrior decks. So you can discard a card and then target one face-up attack position monster your opponent controls and destroy that target. This is kind of like an Exiled Force in a way, a level 4 warrior that lets you remove your opponent's stuff. The upside here is that she doesn't have to tribute herself, and you get to instead discard something that might be less useful, and if she survives you get to reuse that effect. Unfortunately, she's coming with an 800 attack body, so if you normal summon her, she's very vulnerable for an attack. I guess you can set her and some decks just ram into her and make her go in defense, and then you can use her effect on the next turn, which is okay. Or maybe just like summon it with Giant Rat and then on your own turn switch it to defense, so it's not as easy to get over by any normal summon. It's definitely an option to play. I could see her getting some success in decks. At least potentially. We'll see how it goes. And Cyber Prima is a level 6, and if she's tribute summoned, you can destroy all spell cards on the field. So equip spells, field spells, continuous spells. Her effectiveness is of course dependent on how the meta forms. Like if there's a bunch of continuous spells, she's nice. If not, not so much. Potentially a new card to play in inner conflict decks, but yeah, depending on how the meta forms. And the final monster here is Cyber Tutu, and she can attack directly if the attack of each monster your opponent controls is higher than the attack of this card. And 1000 attack is not a lot, but I mean, it's okay. And if your opponent has very big monsters, you can even give her some attack boost and give an even bigger direct attack that way. And yeah, finally we have two more generic traps, both used by Alexis. So Double Passé is a normal trap that says when an opponent's monster declares an attack on a face-up attack position monster you control, you can change that attack into a direct attack, and also inflict damage to your opponent equal to the attack of the attack target you control. And that monster you control can also attack directly during your next turn. So let's say, well, it was often used with like Cyber Tutu in the anime. So they attack, and you do have to make the attack a direct attack and take some damage. But you also get to give your opponent 1000 damage at the same time, and then you get a direct attack on your own turn. So this is actually a potentially good option for twisted personality decks. Maybe it's a little too slow as a battle trap, but it's a way to give you damage, your opponent damage, and then a direct attack on your turn. So that's already 3 counters just by itself, but of course it's a battle trap. But in a way, yeah, as I said in the Ancient Gear video, we do need more battle traps, or otherwise the Ancient Gear effect will feel just underwhelming, like unnecessary, since no one plays battle traps unless we get good ones. And finally, there's Hallowed Life Barrier. So you discard a card, and this turn any damage you take from your opponent's cards and effects becomes 0. So you do need to discard a card, but it's like a buffed Waboku effect, protecting you from effect damage as well, which means you get to attack into Zoma the Spirit freely. Don't have to fear of like Nightmare Wheel, anything like that. And while Zoma is really interesting, since I think it kinda gives slower decks some options, so you don't die against like a big beatdown deck. It's also sometimes really unfun, and I think it's cool to have counters for Zoma. Yeah, that's it for like her actual cards and cards related to her actual cards. But I did put in some generic ritual stuff in the side deck part here. So unfortunately, I think it might be time to power creep Senju and Sonic Bird with Manju of the 10,000 Hands. So Manju is just a combination of those two. When Manju is normal or flip summoned, you can add one ritual monster or ritual spell from your deck to your hand. Now, it is maybe a little unfortunate to power creep those cards, but ritual cards just aren't that great. Like, okay, Cyber Angels might be, but honestly, because they have Petit Angel, you don't even need Manju in that deck. So it's just time to buff ritual decks like this. Give them Manju, so you get to add just a specific piece you need. And preparation of rites is also ritual support. You get to add a level 7 or lower ritual monster from your deck to your hand, and then one ritual spell from your grave to your hand if you want to. So more copies of rituals like Fortress Whale or Paladin of White Dragon, and also recurring ritual spell from your grave to your hand. So it's even better when you draw it like mid to late game. And finally, Drytron Meteor Shower. I won't add any other Drytron cards, of course, but this is just Drytron in the name. The effect is completely generic to any rituals. So when your opponent normal or specials a monster while you control a ritual monster, negate the summon, and if you do, shuffle that monster into the deck. Now, we don't have a lot of counter traps really, at least counter traps that are worth playing. This is an interesting card. It gives the weaker ritual decks some powerful options to play turn 1, since, well, let's say you summon Fortress Whale. It does nothing by itself, so Drytron Meteor Shower would make that kind of play stronger. But of course, if you get to play Drytron Meteor Shower in the Cyber Angel deck to protect your cards as well, that might be kind of an issue. But also, this only stops normal and special summons, so it's still vulnerable to anything like Night Beam, Cosmic Cyclone, or also any effects that special summons. So if your opponent just starts with Polymerization, you can't use Meteor Shower, which means it has some fair counters in my opinion, and it doesn't like protect your board. Like, if your opponent reads you have Meteor Shower, they can maybe just Book of Moon your ritual monster, and then your Meteor Shower can't stop that, and also will not be able to be activated after the Book of Moon. So yeah, it's a powerful card, but restricted to ritual decks and has fair counters in my opinion. But that's it for the Alexis video then. I will also try to be doing one more video showcasing some generic cool cards that would fit into the box in my opinion, that aren't really tied to any special character, and perhaps even some stuff that helps the older decks without like being direct support. Unfortunately, since this is designed to be a sealed play product, they probably won't add anything that's specific to older decks. So what I mean by that is that there won't be anything like B Buster Drake, or like, okay, that's a bad example since Chaz has some unions. There won't be anything like Beta the Electromagnet Warrior, since that card only has effects that support Magnet Warriors, and they'd have to reprint the Magnet Warriors here to make it worthwhile. But there could be something that Magnet decks like, it's just not going to be Magnet support in name, you know? But I'll discuss that more in the later video then. But for this video, yeah, like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to my channel for more speed duel content, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.